North America woke up to silence this morning. Not the kind that comes from peace, but the kind that comes before a storm. For weeks, there's been talk, quiet whispers behind closed doors in Ottawa, Washington, and Mexico City, about a deal that could shift everything we thought we knew about North American trade. And now, those whispers have turned into something much louder. People are saying Prime Minister Mark Carney has done something no Canadian leader has even dared to attempt in decades: challenge the U.S. grip on continental trade. Not through a speech, not through sanctions, but through a deal so quietly negotiated that even most of Washington's trade advisors apparently didn't see it coming. At first glance, it looked like just another economic cooperation agreement, the kind of thing governments sign every few months and the media forgets about within a week. But as details began to surface, analysts realized this wasn't just about tariffs or supply chains. This was something deeper, something structural, something that could permanently change who sets the rules for how goods, energy, and data flow across this continent. The timing couldn't be more explosive. President Trump has spent the past 2 years rebuilding what he calls American control over North American trade. He's imposed tariffs, redrawn agreements, and pressured allies to fall in line. Canada, as always, was expected to comply. But quietly, behind the scenes, Carney was building something else, an alliance that didn't rely on Washington's approval. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's be clear, no one's confirming anything officially. Not Ottawa, not Washington, not even the usual trade insiders. But sources close to the negotiations suggest this new arrangement could bypass traditional U.S. control points, ports, trade hubs, even digital trade routes, giving Canada and its partners a kind of leverage no one thought possible under current agreements. Think about it. For decades, U.S. influence has shaped nearly every major trade decision in North America. From energy exports to tech regulations, Washington set the tone and everyone else adjusted. But if what's being whispered is true, that hierarchy might have just cracked. The real story started months ago, when Carney began meeting privately with a handful of foreign leaders, some from Europe, some from Asia, and, surprisingly, one from South America. The meetings didn't raise much suspicion at first. Canada, after all, has always played the role of middle power, the polite broker, the quiet diplomat. But this time, Carney's tone was different. Those in the room say he spoke about balance, economic sovereignty, and reshaping the North American order. Now, here's where things take a dramatic turn. Reports suggest that this new deal, let's just call it the Global Integration Framework for now, links Canada's energy exports, tech manufacturing, and even its data infrastructure directly to international partners, effectively reducing dependence on U.S.-controlled systems. And that's what's got people in Washington furious and nervous. Because if Canada can move its trade networks outside U.S. dominance, even partially, that means leverage shifts. Power shifts, control shifts, and when control shifts, alliances begin to wobble. For months, Trump has been boasting about how the U.S. controls every deal on this continent. But behind the scenes, Carney was building something more subtle, a web of financial and industrial partnerships that quietly bypass the usual checkpoints. One energy insider put it bluntly: the Americans have been looking north, but the Canadians have been looking everywhere else. What's fascinating is how Carney managed to do it without making a sound. There was no grand announcement, no press release, just a few trade memorandums, a couple of closed-door sessions, and a signature that apparently changes everything. And here's the most puzzling part. Washington didn't react immediately. It's almost as if they didn't realize what had happened until it was too late. Some say Trump was briefed only days ago, and that he's demanding clarification from Ottawa. Others claim he's furious that his advisors failed to spot what's being described internally as a strategic blindside. Now, again, none of this is confirmed publicly. No official document has been released, but the tremors are already being felt. The U.S. dollar slipped slightly in early trading. Canadian markets, meanwhile, showed an unusual uptick, not dramatic, but enough to suggest investors smell opportunity. It's not just about trade numbers, though. It's about who calls the shots. For the first time in decades, it seems Canada has written a rulebook without waiting for U.S. approval. And for a White House used to leading, not following, that's a nightmare scenario. What's even more intriguing is how Carney's team managed to keep this under wraps. Some insiders claim the entire framework was built through a series of indirect alignments, meaning that instead of signing one big deal, Canada linked multiple smaller agreements together, forming a network that collectively reshapes the playing field. Like a puzzle, where each piece looks harmless until you step back and realize what it forms. And here's where things start getting really interesting. Several of those smaller agreements apparently involve digital trade, areas that fall outside traditional tariff systems. That means Washington can't simply impose duties or block shipments to regain control. The game board has changed, and the old tools don't work. As one economist put it this morning, the U.S. has been playing checkers. Carney's been playing chess. Now, of course, the question everyone's asking is, what happens next? Does Washington retaliate? Does Trump try to dismantle the framework through executive order? Or does he try to bring Canada back into alignment with a new deal, one that restores U.S. dominance? Well, that's the suspense, isn't it? Because right now, no one seems to know. Ottawa's staying quiet. The U.S. Trade Representative's office hasn't commented. And Mexico, interestingly, is silent too, perhaps waiting to see which way the wind blows. But one thing's for sure, Carney's move, whether deliberate or accidental, has already altered the tone of the conversation. For years, the U.S. dictated terms. Now, for the first time, it looks like Canada might have written one. The irony here is almost poetic. Carney, a former central banker known for his calm, measured tone, has just pulled off something deeply political, a move that could redefine how nations in this region interact for decades to come. And Trump, whose presidency has often centered on dominance and control, suddenly finds himself reacting instead of dictating. This isn't just a trade story. It's a power story. And if the rumors hold true, we might be witnessing the beginning of a new economic order in North America, one not entirely under U.S. command. What makes this moment so powerful is how quiet it's been. No grandstanding. No fiery press conferences. Just the hum of something shifting beneath the surface, slow, steady, and unstoppable. By the time most people realize what's happened, the framework might already be locked in place. And that's what makes it so brilliant. Carney didn't confront Washington head-on. He went around it. He didn't try to break the old system. He quietly built a new one beside it. So when analysts say Carney's global deal just ended Trump's control over North American trade, they're not talking about a public defeat. They're talking about something far subtler, a quiet revolution disguised as diplomacy. And while the headlines might take days, or even weeks, to catch up, one thing's already certain. The balance of power across this continent has shifted, and it may never go back to what it was before. Now, whether that's good or bad, that's for history to decide. But for now, the world's watching. Ottawa's silent. Washington's uneasy. And somewhere between those two capitals, a brand new trade reality is taking shape, one signature at a time.